All right, sir, I've got it on 2 different layers, and we're gonna cut the inside with nitrogen and the outside with oxygen. I could not get the outside to cut good with nitrogen. It just won't clean cut it. But let's see what we can do here with this setup. Definitely see a heat affected zone and probably want to adjust the pierce location a little bit, but let me fish this out of here. Look at the back side of it. Yeah, that's hot. But you can see that's heat affected zone, but there's no burr on the back of it. All right, there we are, cutting out the balance of the 240 gussets there for Adam at Four Fields Furniture. Built some really cool furniture out of metal and wood. And these are some mounting tabs that he uses to mount the tops to the steel frames. So I've previously been cutting these for him out of plasma cutting them, and in a similar kind of sheet configuration like that. That's the front side. You can see a pretty hot pierce I was using on there. Could definitely soften that up, but it's hot and fast, and we don't need it any better than that. So these are all set up where they're ready to weld in. There's going to be no grinding or finish work required, versus the plasma. I would do them in sheets like that where he could clamp them and grind the back side of it as one sheet. I do these at a real cheap price for him, and it's just cut them and throw them in a box. No services, and those are in there fairly good, but we just break off pretty easy, and they've got a little nib on the back. So get those in the mail to Adam. All right, here's the next job I'm working on. This is for Dustin up in Kansas. So we got this full sheet of 18 gauge cold rolled, and it's numbers. And this is about the 3rd order of these I've done for him. And in doing it, I've discovered that there's kind of an issue with, they all need to be micro jointed because they're nested in there tight. And the insides of the letters are micro jointed as well. You can see the micro joint to hold that in place. And then the outsides of the letters or numbers are micro jointed as well. And so it's just really finicky. A lot of them interlock, especially the number 3 and the number 4. The 2 does it somewhat. It doesn't fall out easily. So when you get them all cut, it becomes a real issue getting them loose. Being 18 gauge, you don't want to bend them, and be too rough with it. So what I've done, it'll be a lot easier if I can get them off of the table and either on the floor or just on the workbench, and I can get access to it a lot better. So I've come in here, and in several places I've got cut lines that'll separate, and so I'll have sections of it that I can pull off in strips. So we'll see how well that works when we get ready to cut that here in a second. You see our red alignment, we're in the bottom left corner. And one of the things about this that some of you may be interested in, some of you guys with lasers already, is you can see this right here is an oil container, and the bearings are all oil injected linear bearings, and so you need to keep them lubricated. One way you can tell if your table is level is if you have a little oil footprint, stain down there, and an oil stain on the one down here. See the spider there? It means we're getting oil down both sides, all the way down the length of the table, that kind of thing. But this oil pump on this thing is on a timer, and you can change the timer, to you can't run the machine without the timer on. I mean the oil, without the oil pump on. It automatically comes on when you power up the machine. There's not an on-off switch on it. And if I'm out here just doing other stuff, or maybe I've got a lot of nesting work to do, or maybe I've cut one job and then I want to, you know, I'm doing other stuff, I'm getting it prepped to paint or something over there. Sometimes this thing will sit here and run for 4 or 5 hours and not really be cutting anything, and I don't really want to boot it, shut it all the way down and all that. And if you have this timer on, it's going to put oil into it every couple of hours, and eventually oil will start going to leaking down, you know, onto the sheet and everything. So here's what I do. Long story short, I was just kind of showing you, this is what I do. I keep the timer set way high, like every 8 hours, so basically it doesn't come on. And when I get ready to cut a full sheet of something, I've got it set up, you know, and ready to cut and lined up and everything. Is I get over here and manually gotta keep out of the way of this gantry and show you this. But I'm gonna manually hold the oil button in to manually oil it. And you can see this thing coming. So 12 seconds of oiling, get a nice little oil across you know, the entire table, the entire length in the X and Y axis. Just got to be careful sitting over there. This thing has tremendous amount of power, and if it pinches you somewhere, it ain't giving up. It takes a tremendous amount of force to get this thing to trigger the safety settings inside the servo drive and alarm it out and stop it. It's a dangerous machine. The mechanical part of the danger is way more dangerous than the laser beam part of it, in my opinion. But so let me do a couple tweaks here, and then we'll fire this thing off and get it cutting. All right, so I backed it up to where it had the tip up and rised up on top of it. So yeah. It's a little back button on the remote there. We're just going to take it back. And if you look right there on that edge, right to the right of the hole in it, you can see where it didn't cut all the way through. I got a couple of them right there. Trying to tip up. Maybe it'll stay in there. All right, so what was causing all that, every one of those to tip up, is I had my pressure way up. I was cutting at about 250 psi, and certain things you need more pressure. Carbon steel, you know, it doesn't take as much pressure, and if you can get away with less pressure, you can avoid all the, you know, as many tip ups. But see, she's cutting away there. All right, a lot of guys ask about, you know, what do you cut with, and, you know, why do you have this and why do you have that? You can laser cut with air, but you need about 250 psi and 40 CFM. So you need a very beefy air compressor to cut. You know, if you're gonna cut thicker materials, you can get away with slightly less than that, but really in general you need a dedicated laser air compressor. Oxygen cuts on low pressure, only about 7.5 psi for that, and you can see those holes and all. Does a nice job. For thin materials, you need nitrogen. Stainless, aluminum, and even carbon. Thin carbon steel does a nice job with nitrogen. And you can see we got liquid nitrogen here. I got compressed nitrogen in that, compressed oxygen in that, liquid nitrogen in that, and depending on what I'm cutting, I switch between them. But this is 4,043 cubic feet of liquid nitrogen, and it's liquid coming out of this tube through the wall, and then it goes out into our vaporizer outside, turns it from liquid to gas, and then back in through this tube into the regulator, set the pressure, and you hear the nitrogen coming out of it. So I'll show you the vaporizer out there. So if you're getting a laser, talk to your gas company, ask them, you know, you can get the 12 packs of compressed cylinders. People ask me, you know, why do you have both? Well, it just, my cutting is erratic. Here's the vaporizer. Now this is way too big. You don't need one this big. My gas company just happened to have this laying around, and they're renting it to me for $30 a month. I probably should just buy one, a small one, but I don't know. I've just been doing this for right now, and it's working well. But the thing about the liquid nitrogen, if you don't use it all within a few days, it will leak down on you. And if you buy a brand new cylinder or have one delivered, and you are, you know, it's in the middle of summer when it's hot, and you don't use it, in about 2 weeks it'll be empty, so you just wasted it. So thought I'd show you a little bit about that. I've covered that in other videos. People are always asking, you know, about the compressed air and nitrogen and all that. So the compressed cylinders, that's my point I was trying to make, is the compressed cylinders, I keep those on hand for just intermittent jobs that come through. You know, hey, cut me 3 of these or whatever. And then when I get bigger jobs or I've got multiple sheets going, I'll call the gas company, and within a day or two they can get me a doer. And the reason you want to do that is just the price of it. The liquid is a lot cheaper, so if you're going to be cutting in high volume, you want to use the cheaper nitrogen. But again, if you don't use it, you know, you're wasting it. So you kind of need both, or at least I do. If you're going to be high production, then you'll probably have a big bulk tank set up where, you know, it's a huge tank outside your facility, and when it gets low, they send a tanker truck out to fill it up, you know, with liquid. And an intermediate step, again, is that stainless liquid nitrogen doer, which your gas company can deliver. Little separation line where I can drag these sheets off in sections and get them off the machine. Oh, check out that rapid on the return. All right. Hopefully that'll let me get all those. Look at all those numbers. Like 400 of them. Lots of handling to do. But let me see if I can get this loose. And I'll have to break some of these loose with a grinder right there where I didn't start that line all the way far enough in. But should be able to separate it off now. All right, I think that's gonna work really well, a lot better. Just need to improve. If you're a laser operator, you know that there are certain compromises between how you do the nesting, how you do your micro joints, the order of cutting to minimize all those tip ups and all that. So that other, the last two orders I did, I cut those and I tried to move the sheet and you can't because it's so unwieldy. Grabs on the bed spikes and all that, and you can't, so I'm left here reaching and individually pulling those out, and sometimes they get hung up. Now with this, they're all nice and neat in a stack. I can get I can reach really easily and get all those out, get them all processed and shipped out to Dustin. All right guys, burning through a bunch of nitrogen today. And another day, another set of jobs to cut out. And this one's going to Spencer, who is a viewer of the YouTube channel. Oh yeah, we caught that right. Let's see what we got going on there. Some kind of little tip up we'll have to get fixed. But we're cutting these out. Let's fix that and get it going again. All right, we're cutting that one again. I had to restart it. I was messing around with the camera. And if you notice, this area popped up right there and it actually tried to recut over it. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one. It's got some funky stuff in there. This is 16 gauge cold roll cutting at 350 inches a minute using nitrogen. You see it's getting on with it. All right, well, we got these two cut out. He's getting two of those. And it just finished right there. And the one thing that I was going to show on this, you got to be careful of. It looks like it got everything, but if you notice right here, this E, you can see right there that this letter was tipped up, and it caused the head of the laser not to come down all the way, so it didn't fully cut that out. That won't drop out of there. Like that one, you can see it's kind of tipped up or whatever. That'll go on out. It's just an odd shape, but it's loose in there. But this one and these two, right, that and that are not going to drop out. And it looks like also the T right there and the S right there. So what you can do is disable everything in here except for what you want it to recut. and you see everything in white is not enabled and the stuff in green is enabled. So let me get those other 2 letters added, and then before you move anything, you leave it all in there. Don't touch anything. It'll be right where it was, and you rehome the machine back to where it started and recut those out. So let's do that. All right, that sheet was also kind of buckled up there. You could see that in the last clip. So I added some, some little steel blocks on there. It's handy to have some 2-inch by 4-inch flat bar pieces just laying around, handy to have. So let's return it home to the start of the job, and then we'll cycle start it and recut those letters. So return home, and then I'm going to hit start, and it should just go cut those 4 letters out, and we'll be good to go. All right. So just trying to find the ones that it cut. So anyway, we're ready to get these out of here. So let's take them out. Let's see if we get a snug fit right there on that star. I'm on out of there. These things, even with a plasma, sometimes they kind of hang up and don't want to come out, just because of the shape of the fingers and all that. Let me get 2 hands on it, and we'll show you what it looks like. All right, there are those. There's still a few pieces that need to drop out. They're just kind of hanging in there. I haven't taken the time to knock them out yet, but there's the back side. You can see pretty clean overall. Ready to do a little grinding on it or whatever, powder coat it, paint it, sand it. Spencer will get these out to you. Appreciate the business and appreciate you watching the videos.